How Sweet It Is, although not my favourite Debbie Reynolds film, is a pretty great comedy. This was released in 1968, directed by Jerry Paris, with screenplay by Jerry Belson and Gary Marshall, starring, of course, Debbie Reynolds and also James Garner and Maurice Ronet. And I'll read the description from IMDb, which is probably the best way to sum it up. The plot's not overly complicated. This says, photographer Grif Henderson is assigned a photo shoot in Paris. He decides to take his wife Jenny and his hippie son Davey with him on the shoot. Jenny unknowingly rents a house that belongs to a French lawyer. She must fend off his charms and stay true to Grif, while he likewise tries to stay true to her on the shoot. So basically we have a married couple who are facing a lot of temptations in a lot of funny situations in the city of love. So first of all, Paris, absolutely beautiful, perfect location choice, really love it. We have some pretty stereotypical temptations, I guess. We have some scantily clad women temptating Grif, and also Debbie Reynolds has an amazing costume in this, but there's also one where she's wearing just a swimsuit and she looks incredible. She plays, of course, Jenny Henderson, and I love her. Phillipe, played by Maurice Ronet, and on screen I think they have a great chemistry, as of course do Jenny and Grif, played by James Garner. I also think that their son Davey is a pretty interesting character. I often wonder why, obviously he has a purpose in this, but I often wonder who came up with his character and why they decided to include this character, because the film would have worked just as well without him. And his input's really interesting, and it's just a really interesting choice that they made, and it worked. It completely paid off. There's nothing wrong with it. I just wouldn't have expected that, and it's not something I would normally see. The costumes are amazing. You do feel like you're in the 60s. The dialogue is fine. Didn't stand out to me as anything too funny. It isn't the most hilarious comedy ever, but there are some pretty interesting situations that will make you smile. It's not the most unpredictable, but there are some moments that I certainly didn't see coming. I think the characters are all likeable, and even though Jenny and Grif are both facing these temptations, they're still very likeable. It's not like we're looking down our noses at them thinking they're bad people for, potentially even entertaining the notion of cheating on their partners. They are great, and ultimately I wanted the best for them, but whether or not that happens, obviously I'm not going to say anything. I love Debbie Reynolds' performance in this. Not my favourite, but her role is brilliant, and I think she was made for this part. I think she's made for most parts, to be honest. Slightly biased. But I do like the inclusion of Phillipe. I think just making him, well, obviously they're in Paris, but making him stereotypically French does make this film a little bit cheesy and cliche perhaps nowadays, but certainly for the time I think it did very well. If you haven't seen the film, I absolutely think it's worth watching. It's got an overall score of 6 out of 10 on IMDb. That's only across 500 reviews, so it's not the most well-known or the most well-watched. But I'd say it's one that's worth looking out for, whether you like anybody in the cast or you just like the sound of the premise. It seems to have the full package, and it does pretty well for itself.